Yamsito, voy a vivir de ver. Hey, hey, Hoka. Hey, hey, Hoka. Hey, hey, Hoka. Salimata Keita, de Samassa Record à New York. Hey, hey. Dansez, dansez, mesdames, mesdemoiselles et messieurs, au rythme de la guitare rythmique de l'Okasa Yambamba. Hey, hey, hey. Passe Matuta à la guitare basse. Débrouille, débrouille, débrouille. Tout le monde débrouille. Bibi dance. Chamuto, chamuto, chamuto bakata. Chamuto baguluta guluta. Chamuto. Narakati bisanga na Kingo Mombasa. Rezo ya mosalama nae. Maya misakotanga ngai neopora Kenya. Loboko yoko pepanga sherie. Na keina susi na kameke na motema. Narakati bisanga na Kingo Mombasa. Rezo ya mosalama nae. Maya misakotanga ngai neopora Kenya. Loboko yoko pepanga sherie. Na keina susi na kameke na motema. Victor Wembe. Musika na keina kokoma mwanefike. Nasanga yo, nasani la joie. Motema pema kutumba yo kakaka. Masengi ya ekoki kobebisa yanga na yo. France Confrère, Pierre Chamba. La vie est comme la maman Jaffa. Coca-Cola les comme la dalbise. La mélancolie absence na yo Jaffa. Mombasa moka banganga Jaffa na kobanga. Samelanga Jaffa. Vieux Bachala, Bachot. La vie est comme la maman Jaffa. Coca-Cola les comme la dalbise. La mélancolie absence na yo Jaffa. Mombasa moka banganga Jaffa na kobanga. Samelanga Jaffa. Jombo Faustino. Moto na yo na moto ya mbeto. Nasambelaka muta, mpona zwa mokongi. Mobembo ezali nango liwa te. Nakozonga muta, bolingo na ngai yo Jaffa. Père Mussolino, mwana Italie, père fondateur. Gerardo na Mombasa. Anielo na Dar es Salaam. Mama Monique Jaffa. Abdallah Shebe. Carlo Italia.
Good evening, and you're welcome to the Mindset Show once again. I'm pretty sure everybody had a fantastic weekend, and I should say, we are all getting accustomed to the freezing cold temperatures that's just descended on us all of a sudden. Welcome once again. It's Monday night, and as usual, the place to be would always be Starr Radio UK, where we bring to you the Mindset Show with myself, Tony Williams. And as I always say, if you're not aware of what the Mindset Show is, it's a show that comes on every Monday night from the studios of Starr Radio UK, where we discuss how to become better versions of ourselves. You know? And what we could term that to mean is, however we were last week as individuals, by this week, we want to become better versions of that. We want to have steady growth, steady improvement in all areas of our life. So we're not just talking about physically, we're talking about mentally, spiritually, financially, materialistically. We just want to see improvement in areas of our relationship, our careers, entrepreneurship, business. Whatever we lay our hands upon, we want to see that there's movements. We're not stagnant. We're not repeating the same old mistakes. We're failing forward, so to say, and we're learning from our mistakes and getting ourselves from a good place to a great place. So all that said, you're welcome to the studios of Starr Radio UK, coming to you from the heart of London, in Croydon in London, I should say. As I said, this is the Mindset Show. Comes to you every Monday night. With me, Anthony Williams. I'll be hosting and anchoring the show for the best part of the next 45 minutes. So welcome to all of you who are joining in and listening in tonight's show, wherever you and however you're joining in or listening in to tonight's program, be it on social media. I have a couple of people on social media listening on radio, listening through the WhatsApp platform, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook page. It's all social media. I want to give a big welcome, a big shout out to you guys, and hopefully we would gain value, or we'll be able to add value to each other's lives and situations tonight, or through tonight's program, I should say. So having said that, don't forget the show's quite interactive. Feel free to join in the conversation in terms of the topic at hand. I always say that, like, message in, call in, and I'll be happy to, share your views and ideas of what, in relation to what we're discussing about. So the phone lines for the radio station, or the studio lines, I should say, is 0208 133 2257, 0208 133 2258. So that's 2257 or 2258. And that would lead you straight into the studio, where you be joined in with me. So, all that being said, let's dive right in, but not before I actually give an extended welcome to people who might be listening to this show at a later hour. So it might not be tonight. Some people who decide to listen to it maybe via Facebook streaming on another day, or the podcast, or over the YouTube channels at a later date. I want to give a big and massive shout out to all you guys and say I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for tuning in. So all that being said, clarified, let's dive right in. Tonight we want to be doing the second half of what we discussed last week, which was talking about letting go of our past. Now, I did the first part the last week, and my intentions was really to sort of cover a lot of the elements that I sort of put together, or what holds us back, or what stops us from letting go of our past. And I figured the best way to do it is to split it into two, because from my sort of perspective, I believe there's, when we look at things that hold us back from our past, it could be sort of divided into two elements or two factors. We have the external things and we have the internal things. Excuse me. Part of the external things that hold us back from the past, might be factors that we have no control over, situations that were imposed on us by our parents, limited beliefs, unfortunate circumstances, maybe, people being taken advantage of, were in vulnerable situations. All these are factors that truly we don't have no control of ourselves. And these factors, no matter how you look at it or how you could say to yourself you've grown out of it, they could still be factors that sort of raise their ugly head at later stages in life and begin to affect, individuals one way or another. However, the part I dealt with last week was the part where I said was the internal factor. Now, these are what factors? These are things which are called self-inflicted factors. These are things that we caused ourselves. If we have any shortcomings in these areas at all, it's things that we've done to ourselves, in terms of maybe, okay, so if we look at areas like, I'm going to try and use the most simplest and relatable example. So someone who's failed in an examination, and the truth of the matter is because he didn't study for that examination, or someone who has a broken relationship and the truth of the matter is that his wife caught him cheating with somebody else, or someone who who's now an alcoholic and the truth of the matter is every night he decided to go and party with his friends, or someone who's not living his life to the level he ought to be. And the truth of the matter is there's just so much social factors or social elements that he puts upon himself that creates an atmosphere of him not being able to focus on anything that's important. All these things are self-inflicted things that we put on ourselves. They're not necessarily things that a state of past that couldn't be avoided. They could have been avoided if we changed or made the right decisions at specific periods or specific times in life. And so therefore, those were the parts that I tried to deal with last week. And last week, if you can listen to the program. It's on the Facebook page of Starr Radio, and also on my Facebook page. I asked quite a number of questions, and part of the questions that I did ask, in terms of dealing with internal factors that stop us from letting go of our past, were questions like, how do you let go of your past? What are the decisions that we've previously made that affect us from letting go of our past? Or how do we feel now when we're at this level of elevation and we look back on our past? How do we feel? Do we regret it? Do we embrace it? Do we think it's hold us back? Do we think, these questions that I tried to answer last week, and I must say we went in depth in terms of trying to get relevant answers that we, people could take home and utilize appropriately and add to their, their mental, the wisdom that each and everybody has in their own right and respect. So this week we're going to look at the external factors of that same thing. So it's a two-sided coin, as I said, and this week we're going to look at the external factors of how we could let go of our past. So I should say, please feel free to join in through any other social media platforms. It is an interactive show. I really do want to hear from people, so I could know how they deal with these things that are external, because I really think that a lot of people, when we want to blame situations and circumstances, it's only the brave people that are able to put their hand up and say, yes, I'm at fault. Even when we're having a little argument with our spouse, our friends, it's only really brave people that take responsibility and take the onuses of that error and say, yes, I'm at fault. And it, in fact, is rare to find people do that. People actually get a lot of satisfaction in putting blame externally onto other people. So you blame someone externally, or he did it, she did it, it was because of him, it was because of her, it was because of another person, it's not my fault, I had nothing to do with it. And there's a lot of satisfaction, and what I could say, what can I call this word? Gift giving or gift receiving from it. People just feel happy, to shift the blame to other people and various circumstances. And the truth of the matter is, when we remain in that state of mind, when we remain in that frame of mind, the truth is we're not taking responsibility. So we're being in denial of what the actual situation is. And if we're being in denial of what the actual situation is and we're not taking responsibility, that situation would always be there. If it's a character trait, if it's a, something we struggle with, if it's a habitual pattern, whatever it is, because we're not taking responsibility of it, it's always going to be, but something that is haunting us, or something that pops up its ugly head, at the most unexpected places, or the most unpleasant of attitudes, or when you're squeezed in one way or another. They say when you're squeezed, what comes out of you is what's inside of you. So if you squeeze a sponge that is soaked with water, you're not going to get orange juice come out of it. If you squeeze orange juice, you're not going to get apple juice. If you squeeze an orange, you're not going to get apple juice come out of it. So what's really inside of you, it's what's going to come out. So the onus is then falls on you to control what comes out of you, as opposed to you shifting the blame for being who you are. So that's all what we're going to talk about today. So I think one of the questions that I then put out in relation to all this that I've said is, why is it so important that we find a way of letting go of our past? Why is it so important? What's the need for letting go of our past? So they say, if you don't know where you're coming from, you won't know where you're going. Is that the same as your past? Is where you're coming from your past? Is it necessarily a catapult to lead you into the same future that it needs you to go into? So where it's brought you from, does it mean that where that past has brought you from, that's the future you have to head into? Or because the reason I've asked that question is because if that past is not good, does it mean that you're confined to a bad future as well? Who has the power to make the change from that bad past to, a better future? Is it you? Is it something else? Is it your environment? Is it your situation? Is it your career? Is it your family? These are the questions you really need to ask yourself, because the truth of the matter is, no matter how you want to look at it, you're the only common denominator that this thing has affected and would affect. So however you want it to go from that past, be it good or bad, however you want it to affect you in future, the decision is totally up to you, nobody else. And whatever decision you make, when you make that decision, is what would affect you in future. They say both foolishness and good things both shape and enlighten us. However, it's being able to make a decision between foolish things and good things is where wisdom comes in. So where you, at that point where you make the right decision, that's where wisdom comes into it. Because the foolish actions would give you enlightenment, either enlightenment in the wrong way or a good way. The smart actions would give you enlightenment, either enlightenment in a good or bad way. But wisdom is actually where you sit back and you're able to differentiate what the right decision is, what the wrong decision is, and you move forward into a better plan and purpose for yourself based off that decision. So why is it so important that we let go of our past? I think it's quite important so that we could actually follow our dreams and our ambitions, because there's no way we could have a haunting past, and ignore it, leave it on check, not look at it in any form, shape or manner. I'm just going to shove this thing under the bed and move on to the future, without expecting at one stage or another for that thing to come up and haunt us. It's so how could I say this? So like in terms of maybe relationship wise, you've had a bad relationship, okay, so maybe this is a woman. She's been treated bad several times, had bad relationships, abusive relationships, or the husband's been cheating on her, so just all the sort of bad things that could happen to a woman in a sort of bad relationship. And then she moves on to somebody else. If she doesn't deal with that baggage from the past, and I'm not necessarily saying deal with the man or the man who caused all that sort of mischief and unfortunate experiences for her, but if she doesn't deal with it herself, in herself, accepting it in herself, no matter if she meets the best man on planet Earth, I don't know who it is. It's probably me, but no one could meet me no more because I'm happily married. But there's no way that ugly past wouldn't resurface in the future. So it could resurface in terms of lack of trust. It could resurface in terms of low self-esteem. It could resurface in terms of anger, bitterness, jealousy. You name it. It could resurface in several areas. It could just pop up its nasty head and would affect the relationship in one way or the other. So these areas are these aspects of what I'm saying in terms of dealing with your past, you need to be aware of. So for us to move forward and deal with our dreams and aspirations, in terms of being a businessman or woman, it allows you to provide value because obviously you're operating from a very, very clear conscience. You haven't got anything that's holding you back, or that's just that's being a weight on your shoulder that you're carrying around. You're very free-minded, you're loving, you're accepting with most people. Then you realize you be operating from an area of what I could call abundance. You're, everything about you will be pleasant. And that's just the sort of aura that someone who's dealt with their past would be, or mindset that someone who's dealt with their past, who hasn't got a baggage from the past, would be operating from. And in so doing, you realize that a lot of people that come in contact with you, they would feel that as well. They will feel a level of trust in you. They will feel sincerity in you. When you talk to people, they could not only listen, but they could understand you. They could see through you. They wouldn't think at any stage there's any particular hidden agenda, or there's any dodginess about this person or this bloke, because there's just so much sincerity in him. There's no, as is popularly said, skeletons in his cupboard, because everything is just out in the open. He's plain, he's visible, he's transparent. That's a good word to use. And the truth is, the absence of doing that means that we continue to hold physical, mental, and emotional possessions of the past that doesn't serve us. And that's the truth. It would be carrying it around with us, but is of no service to us. The truth is actually a disservice to us, because when it takes control of our emotions and raises its head up, or it takes control of our mind, and it narrows our thinking down, or it brings fear, or it brings lack of self-confidence, or lack of trust, or then we start feeling depressed. We start looking at ourselves thinking, I can't do this, I can't move forward, I can't. But the truth is, because of all the limitations that you've put on yourself, because of not letting go and not dealing with those areas of the past that you've been struggling with, or that has infected or afflicted you in the past, then you find yourself now at this position. So really, it gets to a stage where you have to say enough is enough, and you've just got to face it head on, and deal with it. Whatever it is, the truth is, I always say, as long as you're living, you have the power to overcome it. Yes, these circumstances, these things, they're not easy, because I'm not trivializing it in any form or shape. I'm not, making it sound like, it's just case sarah, or it could just be done, at a flick of a finger. No, but like anything at all in life, practice makes perfect. You need to be intentional about it. You need to put your mind at that level of determination that this thing is affecting me in an adverse manner, and I want to make a change. I'm not accepting or harboring this thing, or letting this thing become a lump in my throat anymore, or a burden, or an obstacle in my path of life or in my way forward, and I am going to decide to deal with it. So the truth is, if we sort of like aspire, and I said, if we ever aspire, or if we ever like want to aspire to become anything in life, we've got to really, really learn to be able to let go of things. And most of these things that we're talking about, they are factors from the external side of life that we would have to deal with. So you are listening to Starr Radio, and you're on the Mindset Show with Tony Williams. We're talking about letting go of our past, the flip side of the show that we had last week, which indeed was letting go of our past internal factors. And this week we are looking at the external factors that prevent us from letting go of our past. The truth is, letting go of our past, I always think, is like dropping a weight. It gives you so much freedom, like, it gives you relief. It's a big burden off your shoulder. Have you sort of maybe you were dishonest with someone, or in a relationship, a man cheated on his wife, or you did an act that was unpleasant to someone. You just did some sort of mischief to a close friend or a loved one, and you've been shading it, and you've been shading it, and you've been hiding it, and you've been hiding it. And every time you saw that person, or every time you were in contact with that person, you felt the need that, although you really want to be yourself, there's just something that's heavy on your heart that's holding you back. Or you probably heard that somebody said something bad about you, and this person is a trusted person and you love this person, or but you don't really want to say that this person said this person, because it's gonna and you just really summon courage to go over and come out and say, look, this is what the situation is. I'm sorry, this happened, this happened, this happened. Or I heard you said this, 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 this. Or I'm sorry, I did this, and you just let it go. Do you know, the weight is shifted and lifted off of you, and it's either on the truth is, the weight either goes on that person, or the weight just goes on the atmosphere. But for you, the weight has come off of you. You're now, free from that burden, that baggage you used to carry around every time you come in contact to that person, or every time, because you've been honest and you've been sincere with them. And that's how it is in terms of carrying even things that affect us from the past. Unless you confront it, unless you take it off your shoulder, unless you probably research and study how to get your mindset around it. If it's people that offended you, in areas where you need to practice or express forgiveness, and unless you forgive them, unless you release them, unless you say, look, I can't just be angry with you no more, then you're doing disjustice to yourself. So that's what I meant. That is like dropping away, and it gives us a lot of freedom and reliefs. Because the truth is, what we hold on to physically is normally a reflection of what we hold on to mentally. So if we're holding, anything that we're holding on to mentally, I should actually say, is a reflection of what we're holding on to physically. So each one is a reflection of how we feel. If you're not too happy with someone outside, no matter how you on the outside, no matter how you try and pretend about it, it would show on the inside that there'd be something there that would still be showing that this guy is not sincere, he's not truly happy with me, and all of that. And technically, it's just a baggage that is really unnecessary, that you don't need to carry around, because there is no way that one could be totally efficient if we're cluttered by all these random things. If you look at it, a cluttered mind is technically a cluttered life. It's like carrying around this sort of reservoir of accumulated negative feelings. There's no way you could be like really efficient when you're feeling like this most of the time. So I'm going to look at a few areas where I think we should learn to let go of the past, but not before saying that letting go is never easy again. But with effort and continuous practice, as I did mention earlier, we could develop the ability to totally rid free of this imposter that we carry around with us. So how do we, or what areas do I think we need to learn to let go of from the past? And these areas, they're vast areas of sort of human nature that the past could have a stronghold on. And I'm talking about human nature. I'm not talking about anything spiritual, or I'm just talking about human nature. So I'm not talking about witches and wizards from Africa or so. And even so, God is more than able to take control of those certain situations. But I'm talking about areas that we're in control of. things that has affected us as individuals, physically, mentally, emotionally, ideologies, belief systems, situations of the past, things we just need to free ourselves from, like eternal conflicts, relationship conflicts, bitterness, hatred, unforgiveness, things that just it, they've become strongholds. They've become monsters in us. They've actually become our character because we've harbored them so much. We've built a nice house for them, put CCTV, give them TV, and they sit it comfortably, in our system. And every time we express ourselves, we actually express ourselves through them. And that's, if you want to live, a fulfilled and purpose life, it's actually totally impossible to live through this kind of expression, because everybody we come in contact with, it would be an unpleasant experience for them. And the truth of humanity is we need to to be to give a pleasant experience to to whoever we come in contact with. That's the whole idea of us being alive. Everybody has, we have to impact someone's life in a positive way. If we're failing to do so, then we're failing to live our lives purposely, as far as I'm concerned. Because so basically we're giving bad energy away. I was going to say that, there's this phrase on social media about bad energy staying far away, and that's what people would begin to say about you. Bad energy is not actually the energy, it's actually the person who's portraying that energy, it's the person who's projecting that energy out to other people. And the only reason why it's projecting that energy is because there's been a built up is it condensation? No, there's been a build up of so many bad things that has sort of now led to him projecting and expressing himself in such a way that to other people it becomes a form of bad energy when he presents, or when he shows up, or when he's in their midst, speaks, types, or does anything around them. There was I don't think I should mention, but there was something that I read in terms of how how areas of letting go of our past affects us, and this was by a guy named I think it's J. Abraham, and he called it Strategies of Preeminence. And basically, it was just saying about we always see ourselves as we should see ourselves as like we should see ourselves regularly as in the best relationship with everybody we come in contact with. That the way we see, I'm just trying to paraphrase it now, is that the way we see ourselves should be in a way that we should think that we are their best sort of advisors for on every area in life. And you could only be someone's best advisor, unbiased, without no bias, without no jealousy, without no hidden agenda. Like the best, and let me use the English, truest advisor of someone on earth. You could only do that from a place of love. That means if I have to be someone's best advisor on all aspects of life, on every area of his life, financially, physically, spiritually, in his relationship, emotionally, if I have to give him the best and genuine advice, I could only do that efficiently and successfully from a place of love. And that's what the sort of strategies of preeminence of J. Abrahams was saying. And technically it's saying, like, for you to be able to do this, you need to check yourself first. You need to take responsibility that through you need to take responsibility through sort of being able to deal with your own character, and like dealing with every single thing that you think would hold you back from portraying the truest and sincerest character to this fellow person that you're being in contact with. So you're listening to Starr Radio, and it's a mindset show with Tony Williams. We are talking about letting go of our past, and I'm dealing with the external factors of our past that we tend to have no control over, but tend to as much as we don't have no control over, it tends to control us uh, uh, unconsciously. So here are a list of a few things that I think we need to let go of, and these I sort of took out of, or I sort of dug out of. I spoke about energy before, and I sort of dug this out of the levels of consciousness, which basically gives energy levels for every kind of trait that people have. So if you have a bad trait, there's an energy level for that trait. So and sort of from the lowest level, to the highest level. So the highest level being levels that if you're operating in that energy level, so the highest level I think is peace and love, and I think that's about the energy level for that. If I'm sure it's about, I think maybe 1500 or 200, I'm not quite sure. But if you're operating from that, no, 1500 or 1200, sorry. But if you're operating from that room, or you're operating from that energy level, your true character would always be portrayed. Sincerity would be portrayed. If you're operating from a level of love. However, if you go further down the line or the scale of energy levels, right down to the bottom, you have areas that cause low self-esteem, that we hold on to, that we struggle to deal with ourselves, that affect us, and those areas are the lowest level of energy. It gives us the lowest level of energy, I should say. And those areas are like areas where someone is ashamed of their self, you know. And I'm going to try and deal with some of them in the space of time that I think we have, but I'll name a few of them. So the lowest energy levels of things that could affect us from the past and still stay with us in the future is things like shame, if we're ashamed of ourselves, things like guilt, things like apathy, grief, fear, uh, desire, anger, pride, acceptance, and as I'm mentioning them, the level of energy goes up. That means the effects they have on us from the past, it decreases in a way. So where you're, if or sorry, it increases. So where you're having love, the level of energy from someone, as I said, who's had a loving past is great, but the level of energy from someone who's had a shameful past is very low. So when they deal with someone, now in the now, when they're in the now, when the future now, if they deal with someone because they've had a shameful past, you could see that they're stooped low, and they're unenthusiastic, and they've got low self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, and these are things that we need to learn to deal with, because if we don't, and if we can't learn to deal with them, it's standard that these things will sort of affect us in the future. Because if you're meant to go for an interview and you haven't got self-confidence, the chances that you're going to get the job is very slim. Or you've got guilt inside of you, maybe guilt for something you've done, or guilt or for the way you've been treated, or all these areas that it could affect you in an adverse way, because you're not looking at it and dealing with the fact that, look, okay, we all make mistakes, and yes, if I am guilty, even if it's sort of in a sort of what judicial manner, you do the crime, you serve the time, there's no need to feel guilt haunting you around anymore. You've dealt with it, you should leave it, you should move forward. Grief, I always say, has a low energy level as well. It could affect you from the past, but the fact that you're grieving should not, or you're grieving for someone, should not mean that you're in grief as well. The truth of grieving is you should let grief express itself through you, deal with it, accept it, and keep it moving. If someone dies, you shouldn't grieve yourself to death as well. If that person's gone, no matter how close and sincere that and loving that person is to you, the truth of the matter is they've gone. There's absolutely nothing you could do about it, because you're not God. You're not the creator. If the owner of life takes his life at the time he wants to take his life, who are you to question it? Yes, you could be sad. Yes, you could feel, unhappy. Deal with it. Let it go. Don't grieve yourself to death. Don't mourn. Don't remain in a state of mourning all your life till your life becomes inconsequential. And these are, as the air, fear is another one. Fear. I could never say that word right. Fear. FEAR. And with fear in itself, it's a tricky one because it leads to so many things. It leads to you being on enthusiastic. It leads to you not believing in yourself. It leads to you being incapacitated. It leads to you not trusting anyone. It leads to you not expressing yourself in your true nature. It just leads to so many things. And the truth of the matter is, it really is just an imposter, because if you're afraid of something, the only thing that could overcome it is just taking an action, no matter how big or how small the action is. Once you take one action, you've chopped off an element of that fear. Yes, it might sort of bounce back and go and reassemble itself for you to be afraid of something else, but the only way you could deal with it is continually taking positive actions towards it, confronting it. If you're afraid of heights, just find somewhere to jump off. I'm not saying jump off to there, but find somewhere to jump off of. If you're afraid of, I don't know, just do it. That's the slogan, isn't it? That's what Nike says. Just do it. Just do it. Like, don't let fear incapacitate you. If you're being afraid of something that you've done or haven't done in the past, or that's now haunting you in future, just deal with it. Face it. Just deal with it, because unless you face it, it's not gonna leave. It's really not gonna leave you. These traits, not people, they're in comfort zones with you. They're happy as you're not progressing. They're happy as you're, just harboring them and nurturing them, and I was gonna say giving them feeding bottle. They're just happy. So why should they change? If you want anything desirable and better for yourself, you need to make that change. Because unless you make that change, then they're in comfortable positions, and I could trust you, they're not going nowhere. Blame is another one. I need to understand that blaming is because we want to. It's not because, we have to. It's because we just choose to. It's because we feel a kind of hidden or secret satisfaction from just blaming other people. I think I mentioned this just a while ago. You just feel satisfaction because what's the need to blame? How does it elevate you blaming somebody else? How does it put you down blaming somebody else? What good does blame do for you? What justification does blame do for you? And if it does even justify anything, what reward does a blame do for you? Does it accelerate you? Okay, it does, but does that mean you've moved forward? Does that mean circumstances has changed? No, you blame because you choose to. So, we need to understand to look at, and then when we do all these things, certain biases actually do come up, and all these biases that come up, they come up in a way where we feel the needs to continue justifying, the reason why we have to be blaming somebody or shifting the blame onto other people. But the minute we start taking control, the minute we start thinking for ourselves that, oh, do you know what, I'm taking responsibility of this situation, I'm going to deal with this situation, I'm responsible for what my life is going to be, I'm responsible for how my past is not going to shape my future, regardless of what the circumstances are, then you realize that these biases, that you would have normally thought of before as a justifiable means for you to sit on your ass and not do nothing, they automatically just start fading away. Like I was reading something the other day, and it just says, just do what you can, because do what you can when you can, because as you begin to do what you can when you can, the I cannot do's, as you get close to them, they begin to begin to become I do's, or I can do. So you always have to do what you can. Belief system, again, is another one. If I could quickly run through these in the next few minutes. Belief systems, many belief systems that we have, or the different belief systems that we have, actually have become limiting beliefs for what we want to do. And you have to understand that you could actually decide what belief system you want, depending on the objective that you want, because you don't have to make your belief system prevent you from meeting your own objectives. Technically, that's dealing with fear as well, because once you believe in your mind that you're capable of doing it, regardless of what the obstacles are, regardless of what your belief system is, or regardless of what other people have told you or what you've seen in other people, believe in yourself that you're capable of doing it. Don't let any of the external factors or any of the external circumstances that really had none of your own doing begin to tell you or begin to make you believe that you're incapable or unable to do these things that you want to do. You set out to do it, believe in yourself, forget and abandon every form of limited belief or limiting belief, and just go and do it. Yeah, because the truth is, there would always be circumstances where our systems would hold us back, and unless we sort of know, as I said, the objectives that we want, then those limiting beliefs could actually become a major hurdle for us going forward. I think the final one I might just have time to address would be acceptance. And acceptance of the fact that your past is your past, and your future is more important than your past, because your future is what you have to live. I started this show at 9 o'clock. It's now 9:57. I can't get back those 57 minutes no more. They're gone. They're long gone. There's nothing I could do to reverse that time. It's bitten the dust of my life. Yes, I could try and reclaim or how could I say? I could try and say what I said more articulately in a future post, but I can't. Those minutes that's gone by, there's nothing I could do about it. And that's just how life is. So I've just got to accept the fact that, look, these time is gone, and I've got to, if I have to even make any adjustments, it has to be in my future. But if I'm holding on to any of the mistakes or anything that I've done wrong during the course of the show, then fear would find a way of creeping in to, any future things I want to do. It would haunt me, it would taunt me, it would continue to ring a bell in my head, and it probably paralyze me from moving forward. But that even being aside, I actually really think that the true level of acceptance, right, is accepting people for who they are. That when you accept people for who they are, you operate from a pure level of love. That's when you can't judge, or that's why you find yourself not judging people. That's why you find yourself not chastising people. That's when you find yourself not hating people. Just love, just accepting everyone for who you are. Whatever you give to them, whatever you give, however you operate towards them, it would be from a place of genuineness and sincerity. I don't know why I'm having a twist tongue. And sincerity, and that in itself would allow us, to be so present with everything that we do. That in itself would allow us to be so present in all that we do that we wouldn't even feel the need at any stage to be thinking of things or adverse things that has affected us in the past, or that we think might be a problem into us going into our future. These and many more are areas that I thought I should sort of address this week. There's also a little bit more, but time permitting, it is not going to be able to I won't be able to mention them. But what I just want to say finally is, just regardless of how difficult the past might be, just learn to forgive, learn to forget, live from a place of forgiveness, be true to yourself. Know that if you hold on to your past, you're carrying a weight up the mountain of your future, and you really don't need that. If you need to live and fulfill all your desires, you want to be able to walk into everything that you're walking into with the less weight as possible. Thank you once again for listening. It's been a pleasure having you on board. And until I speak to you guys again next week, it's myself from Starr Radio, Tony Williams on the Mindset Show. Have a fantastic week ahead. Good night and God bless.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
Charlie, Kobe, me try cash no. The way me hu ne man me suspect so mbeji me ato. Me pa cho send no ntem why na e was na kiko to draw pharmacy obrem sisi a. Wo saka we pe from why? Na we dey Charlie ya wapa o. Oh, Kobe, me go so try call no. Charlie, my yes rough from back why?
Hey Joe, me send come messages no why. Nyabu trema me, no pressure. Me chat to direct amount here. So mobile money.
MoneyGram to mobile money. Anio, MoneyGram to mobile money. Say what me do MoneyGram. Mobile money wallet mo Ghana ha. Zpay and a tire MoneyGram, bringing you closer. Service way. Ubenya MoneyGram agent biao.
Hello, good people. I'm back again, and this time it's about Mama's Choice Fufu Mix. It comes in 2 flavors, and it contains essential minerals and vitamins. It's gluten-free. You can grab one from the nearest Afro-Caribbean shop or the corner shop next to you. Insist it's Mama's Choice. It's certified by both the US and the UK Food Standard Boards. Grab one for yourself today. Mama's Choice. Ubedisa Charlie.
Do you feel left out in your education or career but still want to do something